downfield. Can they do it again? Yes, they can!
And the catch is made by Taj Washington. Touchdown, USC.
Blocked by Embiid! Timmy, yes!
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode here of the Beef Up Front podcast on Pick Swap Media. It's Cyclone night as we're going to break down our college basketball top 10 games of the weekend. We're in our Cyclones gear. Kmetz didn't get the message. Joe, welcome back as always. And Nick, first-time guest on the show. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. How are we, fellas?
I appreciate you guys for having me.
Ready to roll. I'm really upset I didn't get the Cyclones memo. I just got my Muskego Muskies shirt.
Just as good. All right. Last week, recap the standings real quick. I went 6-4 straight up, 19-11 total. I was the winner of the week. Joseph, 7-3 straight up, 14-16 total. And then our special guest, Sean Hoy, last week, 8-2 straight up, 18-12 total. So somehow I had the worst overall record, but I had the best total with the or worst straight up, but the best with the spread as well as the over-under. So we'll take that. But as always, another huge slate in college basketball this weekend. Our top 10 games of the weekend here for us. I'm recording this on Wednesday night, so some of these teams are still in action as we're recording, actually, and then there's some of these teams that'll be in action on Thursday night as well. So some of their records will be reflected a little bit differently, but we'll start it off on Saturday with West Virginia at 14-9, one of the more mysterious teams in college basketball this year, at number 5, Texas, who is 19-5. This is a noon tip-off on ESPN. Texas is projected to win this one on Haslam, 76-72. So Texas minus 3.5, over under 147.5. West Virginia is currently playing our Cyclones as we're recording this. So, Nick, your first time on the show, give us your little breakdown for this game.
Yeah, I got Texas coming out on top on this one. I got 75-68 Texas. Texas minus 3.5 under. Previous matchup this year, Texas won 69-61 in West Virginia. Marcus Carr having a good game, 23 points, averaging about 17 this year, averaging about the same in conference play too. Both these teams have about like top in the nation in the strength of schedule. So these teams know how to battle. In the end, I think Texas has just way more firepower, way more options. In the end, I got Longhorns over Mountaineers.
Yeah, I like Texas in this one too, to win, to cover, and the under to hit. I'll go Texas 73, West Virginia 65. That was an interesting note about what you said, Nick, about the strength of schedule. That kind of ties in what I wanted to say about West Virginia. They're just a fascinating team at 14-9. They've played 13 games in Quad 1. They're only 4-9 in those games, but they've played a lot of games, and they still have, 5 or 6 regular season games to go. They have another Quad 1 game that they're playing in tonight against Iowa State. They could be a tournament team at the end of the day with like 13 or 14 losses just because how good their schedule was this year and the ability to, I think that they've shown, beat some good teams or even just compete against them. But going to Texas here and getting a huge win on the road is something that committee will really value. I just don't think that they have the firepower to do it. And Texas at their new arena, the Moody Center, has been really good this year. They're 13-1 there this season. So I think the home court advantage kind of carries them in this one. But if West Virginia is able to go to Texas and get a win, that's going to make them a really interesting team come tournament time, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with both you guys here. I'm going to take Texas 79, West Virginia 73. A little bit higher scoring. I'll take the over 147.5. But kind of just go off of what you guys said. The fact that West Virginia is 14-9, could be 14-10, depending on how their game against our and they're only a 3.5-point dog is very impressive to me. And it just shows you the depth of the Big 12, which I feel like we talk about every show. But shout out the Mountaineers, because Coyle, like you said, they could be like 2 games over 500 and have a legit case to be a tournament team, which is something that we've never seen before out of a at-large bid. So that's definitely something to watch as we are coming down the barrel here for the rest of the season.
All right, we transition to the SEC now. Number 3, Alabama at 20-3, at Auburn 17-7. 2 o'clock tip on ESPN. Alabama projected to win this one 73-71 only here. So we'll go Bama minus 1.5, over under 143.5. Bama is playing Florida tonight. Joe, why don't you start us off with this one?
Yeah, I do not agree with Haslam here saying Bama by 2. I'm going to take Alabama 84, Auburn 77. This is just a simple case of, I know it's a rivalry game, and we saw last week, Indiana upset Purdue, but Auburn is not Indiana. I do not think Auburn is that good of a basketball team. I think they'll still make the tournament. Coyle, I believe I said it last week. They feed on the bottom half of the SEC. I know they just had that rock fight on Saturday against Tennessee, but I just don't see them having the firepower to keep up with Alabama. I think the Tide are going to control the entire game and win pretty handily, even though I only have them winning by 7.
Nick?
Yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement with you, Joe. I mean, they play with the highest tempo in the nation. They're 10-0 in conference play, and they got 2 freshmen, Brandon Miller. They got Noah Clowney, who's been stepping up. Both of them almost averaging a double-double. Well, Noah averaging a double-double the last 5 games at 12 and 8.5. Yeah, I mean, Brandon Miller's just you can't really stop him. Auburn, like Coyle has been saying, are pretty much frauds. They got Alabama has the second highest point differential in the SEC at 14.5. Only one higher is Tennessee. Overall, Bama's just going to roll them over 79-71. I got the over in this one as well.
I like Bama to win, to cover, and the over to hit here. I'll go 80-70. Another week with Auburn finding their way onto the show. I think it's virtue of their opponent most of these weeks because they've been on here a bunch of times, and I think I've picked against them every single week they've been on the show this year, and I think that's 4 or 5 different times. And I think I've been proven right, like I'd say 4 out of those 5 times. But they're just, in my opinion, a very, very high likelihood of a team that'll get like a 6 or a 7 seed and is going to find a way to get upset in the first round. They've only beaten one ranked team all year, and that was Arkansas back on January 13th. And we see what Arkansas has kind of looked like recently. They're a fringe top 25 team. They just went and beat Kentucky on the road last night, which is impressive anytime you go to Kentucky. But this is a Kentucky team now that might not even be in the tournament when it's all said and done. This is a huge rivalry game, though, and Auburn these past few years, I think under Bruce Pearl's built up a really good home court advantage. So I don't expect it to be a cakewalk for Alabama. I kind of wish, though, we had last year's Auburn team with Jabari Smith and Walker Kessler against this year's Alabama team. I think that would be an awesome game because Auburn was kind of my team last year. I thought that they were really good. They were like my national title team. And I think Alabama has a good chance to cut down the nets this year. If we had those 2 teams, I think we could be in for one of the better games of the season. But I just think this Alabama team is much more talented than Auburn right now. And when they have that head and shoulders best player in this matchup in Brandon Miller, I think you have to take him. So I'll take the Tide to roll here and cover minus 1.5 and go over the total of 143.5 there. All right, another fun one, the Big East now. We got, Joe, your Huskies ranked number 21 back in the top 25 at 19-6. They are traveling to Omaha to play number 23 Creighton, who's 15-8. Another 2 o'clock tip here. I believe this one is on Fox or FS1. Creighton comes into this one projected to win 71-69, so we'll go Creighton minus 1.5, over under 139.5. Creighton is playing Seton Hall tonight on Wednesday.
I mean, I'm biased. I'll keep it simple. I think UConn's winning this game. I have UConn 73, Creighton 70. So I'm going to take UConn plus 1.5. I'll take the over 139.5. Am I also using recency bias? Yes, because the game last night against Marquette was the best game I've seen UConn play since we beat our Cyclones in the PK 85 championship game. That's the best I've seen UConn play in a long time. We were ice cold in January. I'm hoping that this game sparked something last night because if you look at the schedule after this game, there's a real chance UConn wins out. We have a tough game at St. John's. St. John's is kind of all over the map. We have Providence at home, but UConn at home is a completely different team. We only had the one home loss, Coyle, that broke the trend to Xavier that I'd always talk about. The top 5 teams in the Big East are undefeated at home against each other. UConn broke that trend. I think they're going to continue here. Season sweep of Creighton for the first time ever since we came back to the Big East. And shout out Tristan Newton, who I think is the X factor for UConn. He got his second triple-double of the season, transferred from ECU. And there's only been 13 triple-doubles in the history of Connecticut. He has 2 of the 13.
Oh, poor time.
And if he's clicking, I mean, you saw it last night. The offense was just run and gun. I loved it. It made me enjoy basketball again. So give me the Huskies.
I'll squash your little UConn hype train there and give me my Blue Jays in this one. 81-74. So Creighton -1.5, over 139.5. I said it on here 2 weeks ago going into that Creighton Xavier game that Xavier at the time I thought was the best team in the Big East, but I thought Creighton at full health and full strength had the argument to be that team. And then they went ahead and kicked Xavier's ass that day. I'm going to continue riding that kind of narrative here by taking Creighton. Since Kalkbrenner returned to the lineup from his illness, Creighton is one of the best teams in the country. They do have 8 losses, though, so they might not get a glorious seed. But like if they're a 6, 7, 8, or 9, they could be that lower seed that we see in the Elite Eight that kind of, I guess, comes out of nowhere. But this is a team coming into the year, had Final Four expectations, battled some health stuff. And now that they're finally back full strength again, we're seeing the type of team that they can be. They're also really deadly at home, 11-1 this year. That one loss was to Nebraska of all teams, but that was when Kalkbrenner was out of the lineup. As you touched on, Joe, though, UConn did look impressive last night, Roland Marquette, but they have been, I think, just a little bit too up and down since that 14-0 start. Going on the road, as we always talk about in college basketball, especially against these high-level ranked teams, is never an easy recipe for success. So I'll take the Blue Jays at home here as they continue their second half surge over the season and trying to stake their claim as the best team in the Big East when fully healthy.
Yeah, Coyle, I'm going to be with you on this one. I got Creighton 77, UConn 70, overhitting in that one. I mean, these teams are kind of similar in my opinion. I know they got 2 big men in Kalkbrenner and Sanogo. That's going to be a great matchup down low. And, I mean, their guard play in the Creighton's Alexander and Nemhard and Shearman. And then they're against UConn's Hawkins, Newton, and Jackson. I mean, I think these guys are going to go at it. It's going to be a good battle. Kind of a prove-it game for Creighton. I just think the home teams usually win in those type of games. So give me Creighton 77-70.
All right, now to the ACC. I think we've had a different conference for every matchup so far. So some good parity across the college basketball slate this weekend. We have Duke at 17-7 at Virginia 18-4. 4:00 tip here on ESPN. Virginia favored to win this one, 65-61 on Haslam. So we'll go UVA -3.5, over under 125.5. I'll start us off on this one by taking UVA 68-60. So I think they cover that 3.5 and they go over that total of 125.5. I'll just start it off pretty simply. I just do not think this Duke team is very good. They got a win last weekend against North Carolina, who we're seeing might not even make the tournament now. It's going to be awesome if we do get like UNC versus Kentucky in the first 4 in Dayton. That would be a nice way to start off the tournament. That would be
attended first 4 game of all time.
Yeah, that would be the most viewed. It would be nuts. I think it's going to most likely if they're like close. I think that they're going to throw them in that one rather than like putting them in like the last 4 teams in the field just to get that matchup and just get the tournament started off on the right foot. But I don't think this Duke team is very impressive either. And we kind of saw they couldn't, I guess, run with that momentum that they got from Saturday against UNC when they played Miami the other night and got blown out. I think they relied too much on Filipowski to be special, and Roach as well. Jeremy Roach is a good player. He's a good guard, but he's not, I think, just a special player that he's just given too much, I think, responsibility, and he's not that type of player. And they're just so much youth on this team still, and they have just not seen a defensive team like Virginia and the style they play all year. So I think UVA wins this one comfortably, and I'll stake my claim now that I'm going to pick against Duke in the first round of the tournament this year.
Coyle, it's funny you say that because I have bracketology right here. Duke would be playing West Virginia, according to Lenardi right now.
I will take 7-10?
7-10 in Greensboro, which the fact that Duke is getting a 7 seed is comical. I'll just say
in Greensboro.
Yeah, I mean, of course, because it's Duke. I hate Duke. Duke sucks. They're not a good basketball team. I don't care what anyone says. They would be playing West Virginia in the first round of the tournament. I would hammer West Virginia. Then West Virginia would get to play Tennessee in the next round, hammer West Virginia again. Both teams are frauds. Duke just isn't good. Having to go to Virginia, and once again, the thing that Duke has screwed themselves forever, like I always say, they will get Virginia's fans. That will be the biggest game, maybe besides Virginia Tech, of the entire season. It will be a madhouse. I think Virginia is just going to suffocate Duke, just like they're known for doing. So that's not go in depth. UVA 73, Duke 66. I'll take the Virginia minus 3.5. I'll take the over 125.5. Something I don't like doing when Virginia's involved.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. And I definitely don't like taking this over here, but I got 68-62 Virginia winning this. Two really slow-paced teams. Duke's a horrible away team, and Virginia is very good at home. The experience in this game, in games like these, I think go a long way. Virginia is a way more experienced team in this. Yeah, give me Virginia 68-62.
All right, clean sweep there across the board for us. We were all on the same picks. UVA straight up to cover and the over. Back to the Big 12 now. Number 14 Baylor at number 17 TCU. 4 o'clock tip here on ESPN2. TCU projected to win this one 75-72. So we'll go TCU minus 2.5 and over under 146.5. Nick, why don't you start us off with your pick here?
Yeah, and this kind of depends on some injuries here, but I mean, I'm going into it thinking that all teams are healthy right now. I got TCU 79-75. Give me the over 146. This is going to be a tight game, no matter who plays. TCU won last matchup only by 1 in Baylor, but it kind of comes down to Lampkin and Miles here. If they can get on the court, I think that they can pull this one off. I know Keontae George is not only one of the best players in the nation, but he's a freshman. So this is going to be a brawl back and forth, but I got home team coming out 79-75, covering 2.5.
Well, I'll go second because I have Baylor winning this one 74-70. So I'll go Baylor plus 2.5, under 146.5. As you kind of touched on, Nick, the health of this one is obviously going to play a big role in this game with Mike Miles having missed the last few games and Eddie Lampkin on that bum ankle. Those are two of the best players in the Big 12, and if they're not fully healthy in the lineup for TCU, that's going to hurt them in this one. I think Lampkin is going to give it a go. He seems to always kind of be battling through some injuries and is just a real tough guy on the floor. And while he's battling a high ankle sprain, definitely not an easy injury to play a basketball game with, but we've seen his toughness kind of go before, and I think he's going to try and play through that bum ankle. But Miles' injury is a knee one. It was like a hyperextension, so that's something that you really can't mess around with. It's not like it's just something that's sore. His knee is just not fully like intact right now, so he I think needs to continue to rest in this one. I could see him pushing to play as we're getting down the stretch here, but my gut says that TCU is going to sit these guys and just kind of think, or at least Miles, and just think, all right, we're talented enough whether we get a 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 seed, somewhere in that range. We're talented enough to make some noise in the tournament. Let's just get there healthy and kind of roll the ball out and see what happens. With that being said, I like Baylor to go on the road and win here at TCU. They're a team that I think is just tough to match up with, a team that I've been growing on more and more as the season's gone on. Have 3 really talented guards, so I usually tend to lean towards the teams that have better guard play. So give me Baylor winning on the road here, but if TCU is able to throw out some of their key guys healthy, I think they definitely could pull out this one as well.
Yeah, I mean, you guys kind of said it all. I'll keep this one quick. I have TCU winning 73-71 just because I think, the home court is huge, like we always talk about in college basketball. TCU on a little 2-game skid right now wouldn't help them, losing this one because then they have to go to our Cyclones on Wednesday. This is by far, by the way, the most we've mentioned the Cyclones in any this season.
They're getting smoked right now.
They were not even halfway through the show. But yeah, this is a massive game for TCU just because they're currently sitting at 6th place in the Big 12, which is crazy that the best team in the conference is 17th in the country. But, they could be in danger of potentially falling into that first round window of games, not getting that bye. And they could, potentially fall into a 7 seed depending on how things break here, which, wouldn't be good for them for the Big 12 tournament. So I think Jamie Dixon's going to have his guys ready, though. Baylor, good team, not like we saw a couple years ago in the COVID year. Give me the Horned Frogs at home.
All right, we transition now to the SEC. Before we go into this one, Joe, who do you think I hate talking about more, Tennessee or Auburn?
I mean, probably Tennessee, just because they have the number next to them. At least Auburn's kind of showing that they're a fraud. Tennessee still has a good record to kind of back them up, but I think Tennessee definitely is at least my most hated. I would have to guess you as well.
Yeah, well, now we'll get into their game. We have Mizzou at number 6, Tennessee, 6 o'clock tip on SEC Network. Haslam's got the Vols winning this one 76-65. So we'll set it at Vols minus 10.5, over under 140.5. What are your thoughts on this one, Joe?
I'm going to go Vols 69. I actually typed Mizzou 91. I meant to type 61. That's I know I hate Tennessee, but I don't have that much. I'll go Vols 69, Tigers 61. I'll take them plus the 10.5. I'll take the under 140. I think Tennessee is going to kind of try to slow Missouri down, but I'll have to go the Vols here.
Yeah, I agree, Joe. I'm going to go with Tennessee here, 72-64. I do like Mizzou covering this game, under 140. Like you said already, Tennessee is going to slow this game down. They're gonna control the tempo. Tennessee only averages 55 points a game allowed on them. I mean, that's pretty insane. And this game's in Tennessee, right?
Yep.
Yeah, this is. I think Tennessee comes out. I do think Mizzou covers though. In a game like this at home, to stay on top of the SEC, I think Tennessee comes out.
Yeah, if we are able to get in the same bracket, 1 seed Houston or 1 seed Tennessee or 2 seed Houston, vice versa, whatever, that game might be 35-34 at the end of it. How ugly it would be.
97.
Yeah, it would go the complete opposite the way you'd think. But I'll take Tennessee to win this one 65-63. So winning this one by the skin of their teeth. Really like Mizzou plus 10.5 and the under here. I just can't take it over in a Tennessee game right now, considering they just played a 46-44 game, whatever that was. But a game of completely contrasting styles. Mizzou likes to make it a track meet. They want to play in the 90s. And then Tennessee, as you guys both touched on, play this slower physical style game. I think it's whoever can control the tempo in this one will come out on top. Just a little side note here. Last year, I anointed the SEC as the best basketball conference in the country. I mean, you had Tennessee, Auburn, Arkansas. Who else, Joe? We had some other really good teams. Alabama. It was or Kentucky was a 2 seed last year.
Yeah, Kentucky.
Yeah, you had, and I think it might not have been best from top to bottom, but the top 4 or 5, I think. And now this year, I think that
A&M, A&M was a good bubble team last year. South Carolina for a while, they kind of fell off at the end, but they weren't that bad either.
And it's this year, I think it's completely flipped, and I think that they're the biggest or most fraudulent conference in the nation right now. I could see a scenario where these teams all make it: Alabama, Tennessee, Missouri, Auburn, Kentucky, Arkansas, Texas A&M, maybe even Florida gets thrown in there as well. And I could see a scenario where none of them make it past the round of 32. I do believe in Alabama. I think that they are good enough to go down and cut the nets down in Houston when it's all said and done. But one off day with the way that they play and shooting a ton of threes, you go out and shoot 40 threes and you only make 5 of them. You have a rough shooting day. You get easily bounced in the 8-9 game or to whoever the 8-9 seed is, and if they're the 1 seed. So it wouldn't surprise me at all to see no SEC teams in the Sweet 16 this year. But with all that being said, I do like Tennessee just to win this one at home. I think that they're just a product, though, of a bad league at the moment. That's kind of why they're still winning all these games with the SEC being a bit down. They're a good group at home, though, and they play very tough there. So I think they find a way to win this one by the skin of their teeth. But do like Mizzou to cover and the under to hit. All right, now it is time. The game of the weekend, the Lewis Cats game. This one's for you, Lou. Oklahoma State at number 11, Iowa State. 6 o'clock tip-off here. It's probably going to be on ESPN Plus, of course. Iowa State projected to only win this one 63-61. Cyclones minus 1.5 over under 123.5. The disrespect there with that line. Dude, Nick, give us your pick on this one. You got the Cowboys?
on this line. Don't even give one in the Coliseum. You're going to tell me this is 1.5. This is unbelievable. Give me Cyclones, 69-59. They're probably one of the worst offenses that I've ever seen, but their defense is insane. They're one of the oldest teams in the nation. And in Hilton, there's no way that this line should be anywhere near 1. Give me the Cyclones all day, and actually give me the over 123. I never want to take an over in a Cyclone game, but I think 123 is really low. But yeah, I can't see Cyclones not coming out on top. So, and I can't not roll with them.
What do you think would be a higher total? Virginia versus the Cyclones or Tennessee versus Houston?
Higher total?
Yeah.
Wow.
Probably Tennessee, because they could probably score. Cyclones don't know how to put the ball in the net.
Tennessee's frauds, though.
They are frauds.
Houston
Cyclones
would probably win that game 32-31.
Look like a football score.
The Vols football team and Houston football could probably put up a higher score than the basketball team.
That is true. That total, the football total, would probably be like 70.5 or something if those two.
Oh my god, easy! Yeah, it'd probably be 20 points off of the total for the basketball game.
Yeah, crazy.
It's embarrassing.
All right, well, I'll take the Clones as well. I mean, for Luke Katz, he got a 64-58. Clones minus 1.5, under 123.5. I think the Cyclones, though, they do catch a break. Oklahoma State's been playing a little bit better, but their best guard, Avery Anderson, just had a wrist injury. He's out indefinitely. So without him in the lineup, that's obviously a big blow to Oklahoma State. Just an ugly game here between two teams that are not very talented, but they do play super hard and they're super well coached. And that's why they continue to just find ways to win games. It's also hard to pick against the Cyclones at Hilton Coliseum. So give me the Cyclones to win, to cover, but I have the under hit in there of 3.5. Joseph, you got the Cowboys?
I just wrote down Clones every which way in the over. I didn't even give a score. Give me the Clones every which way. I'm taking the over. I'm taking the Clones straight up. Our Cyclones, beef game of the week.
Will you be putting your second half of your tuition on them?
Yeah, my second half tuition. And the NCAA approved that we get to start the first 5 minutes of the game. Surprise, boy. Beef game of the week.
All right. Now to the Big Ten. Number 18, Indiana, 17-7. At Michigan, 13-10. 6 o'clock tip on ESPN. Hoosiers projected only win this one, 74-72. So we'll go Indiana minus 1.5, over under 145.5. Michigan is playing Nebraska as we speak. Nick, start us off here.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go away from Indiana here. I'm going to take the home team here in Michigan, 72-70. I've been really impressed with how Indiana's been playing. They just had a big win last night against Rutgers. I mean, Jackson Davis is an unreal player just all around. I mean, he's one of the most unstoppable players right now on the court. But I think Michigan's just a better home team. They're 9-3, while Indiana is 3-5 on the road. I think this could be another prove yourself type of game coming off a win against Ohio State for Michigan. Dickinson and Jackson Davis are going to be a must watch all game. They're going to be battling all game down low. Jed Howard and Kobe Buffkin going to have to play a real good game in order for Indiana to be stopped. So yeah, give me Michigan by 2 here, under 145.
I'm going to go Indiana here. Was a little surprised by myself of taking them just because, Joe, this is one of those games where I feel like you and I tend to pick the home team. It's one of those, like, got to have it. Michigan's back's against the wall. I just don't really think that they're a good team. I think if this was like Nebraska or something, sitting at 13-10, there would be no shot we'd be picking them just because, I guess, of Michigan's past success. But I do like Indiana to win here, to cover in the under. I'll take them 75-67. Came into the year doubting this Indiana team. They were picked as the preseason Big Ten favorite. But I did think they were overhyped. I think they were a group that hasn't achieved like really anything besides going to the tournament last year and winning a first 4 game. That's just about it. And then they get anointed as the preseason Big Ten champs. I was never really high on that thought, and I looked pretty good at the beginning of the season with that. But they've recently turned the corner, and that the duo of Jalen Hood-Schifino as well as Trace Jackson-Davis has really taken off. They lost 3 games in a row in the middle of January, but since then they've won 7 out of 8. And 6 of those wins, they've held their opponents to 70 or less. So their defense has been playing a little bit better than earlier in the year. As you already touched on, Nick, the 2 big men facing off in this one is going to be a great matchup and might ultimately decide it. It also could be one of those things where these 2 play so well, one of the guards on either side is going to have to step up. And I like Jalen Hood-Schifino to be that guy. Huge game, though, for Michigan, sitting at 13-10. I won't say that they're dead in terms of making the tournament, but if you win this one over a surging Indiana team, that'll certainly put you back in the conversation. But they're only 2-8 in quad 1 games this year. They don't really have many quality wins. I just think they struggle against better teams. They haven't beat a ranked opponent the entire season. I just don't think that they're good enough to get it done against a surging team like Indiana. So give me the Hoosiers to win on the road here to cover and the under to hit.
Yeah, I'm going with Indiana here, but only by a point, 76-75. I feel like this is going to be one of those tight games. Hunter Dickinson's going to have a good shooting day because he can shoot from the outside. But Coyle, kind of like what you were saying, this is a Michigan team that doesn't have any wins against ranked teams. It's also a Michigan team with a loss at home to Central Michigan. A loss to a North Carolina team that we're seeing is not that good. I mean, this is a team that's kind of been all over the map. They're 13-10. I could see them, they're looking like they're going to beat Nebraska. 73-63 with 7 minutes left right now as we speak. So I could, they'll be 14-10 most likely going into this game. But, I mean, they need a lot of things to break their way if they're going to want to make the tournament. Even Lenardi didn't even have them in the next 4 out. He had them in his, little under consideration spot. I also just, Coyle, like you said, this Michigan team just isn't that good. They don't have a lot of firepower. It's tough when your best player is a center because, when you don't have elite guard play, you're not going to be able to get the ball to them that well. And, I think it's going to be the difference here. I think this is going to be one of those back-and-forth games. But I just don't see Indiana blowing this game on the road. I think Indiana has a chance to really make up for last year, Coyle, kind of like you touched on a little bit.
All right, last game of Saturday now. We head to the Pac-12. Number 7, UCLA at 19-4 at Oregon 14-10. 10 o'clock tip on ESPN here. Haslam's got it as UCLA 69, Oregon 62. So Bruins minus 6.5, over under 130.5. Oregon playing versus USC on Thursday, and UCLA playing Oregon State on Thursday. Nick, what's your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I think experienced team's going to come out on top here, even in a away game. I got UCLA 77, Oregon 72. I do like Oregon covering because it's obviously at home and the overhand, but I think just UCLA is way too experienced. They know how to come into an environment and take over and pretty much just take over, literally just dominate. I think even though Oregon is 10-4 at home, I think a more, like I said already, a more experienced team comes in here, knocks them down. They already played. UCLA won 65-56, and they scored 44 in the second half. So I think when they want to turn it on, they can just turn it on no matter where they are. So, yeah, give me UCLA 77-72.
Joey going a little against the grain here in this one.
Yeah, Oregon 76, UCLA 73. They're the Syracuse of the West. Every year, they're going to find themselves down with a not great record going in the middle of February. I believe they're sitting at they're 14-10, but they play USC. I could see them winning that game at home. I could see them winning against UCLA. Then all of a sudden, we'll be sitting here, recording next week's show. Well, hold on now. Here comes Oregon, surging towards the bubble. And they'll get like a 7 seed in the Pac-12 tournament, and they'll make some noise, kind of like a couple years ago when the Pac-12 became a 3-bid league, our freshman year beef, and Oregon was the team that got in and managed to go to the Sweet 16 that year, I believe. So yeah, give me the Ducks. I also just wanted to be different. I saw you guys both had the Bruins. Wanted to go to the Ducks.
Wanted to stick out like a sore thumb there, Jay. Doing it for Luke Katz.
What was that, Coyle? You cut out.
You doing it for Luke Katz?
Yeah. Doing it for all for Mr. Katz.
All right, I'll take UCLA 72-68. I do like Oregon to cover plus 6.5 and over 130.5. Kind of took what I was going to ride with there, Joe, as well. It's just that time of year where Oregon begins to figure it out. As Rothstein always says, Dana Altman, what is it? More aligned than a Rubik's Cube or something?
That's all he says.
Yeah. But, I mean, it kind of makes sense because he comes into every season, I feel like, with all these different puzzle pieces, and they are like a highly ranked, highly touted team, at least over these last few years. They come into the season with expectations, start slow out of the gate, but then you started to see them slowly put it together as the year goes along. And then they're a team that, with a Pac-12 that isn't looking that great, as you were saying, with UCLA, Arizona being like the only locks right now, and then USC probably getting in. There's a viable chance that Oregon could run through the Pac-12 tournament as well and get the auto bid out of that conference. But sitting at 14-10 as of Thursday night, they are 7-8 in the first two quadrants. But they do have the opportunity to beat UCLA and USC and then run the table potentially after that. They had like Washington State, Washington, Cal, Stanford all left on the schedule. A lot of winnable basketball games. They're running into a very good UCLA team, though, at this one. I think if Oregon beats USC, have a good chance to carry the momentum over into Saturday, but I think USC is a better team than Oregon. I think that they have a pretty decent chance to win that game. And UCLA, a damn good team, as Nick was touching on, all that experience. I think they're a Final Four caliber bunch. It worries me a little bit about the games that they've kind of been playing recently against conference opponents. I don't think they're going to be that tested heading into the big dance. So that could maybe eventually trip them up. But this is a really good UCLA team experience. This was a tough game to pick for me, but I'll take UCLA to win. Could see Oregon winning, so I'll take them to cover, though. And now we'll move to Sunday, the most important game on Sunday on the entire sports schedule. You got number one Purdue at 22-2, traveling to Evanston to play Northwestern at 16-7, 2 o'clock tip on Big Ten Network. Purdue 69-62 is a projection here. So we'll go Purdue minus 6.5, over under 130.5. Purdue playing Iowa on ED Thursday tomorrow night, and then Northwestern playing Ohio State, who from the beginning of the year to now, maybe the most disappointing team in the country on Thursday night as well. Joe, why don't you start us off with your pick here?
Coyle, I couldn't have said it better myself. The ED Thursday. The Purdue Thursday-Sunday combo is insane. All their games the rest of the year are Thursday, Sunday, except when they play Indiana in a couple of weeks. Saturday. Fun fact, Purdue undefeated on Thursdays and Sundays. Their only 2 losses, Monday loss to Rutgers and a Saturday night loss to Indiana. I think they're going to win this game 74-70. I'll take Northwestern plus 6.5, take the over 130. Edie's going to have a monster game. I don't see Purdue losing the rest of the regular season. They're going to really use that Indiana game as fuel, and they're going to, ride their way into the Big Ten.
I'm calling my shot here with the most important game of Sunday. Being the Northwestern Wildcats finding a way to win this one. ED Thursday, we'll win tomorrow versus Iowa, of course, at the Tin Pan Alley. But when you come to Sunday, it's Northwestern's day, I think. I'll take them 71-68, so Northwestern plus 6.5, over 130.5. Whenever a number one team comes to your house, it's the biggest game of your season. But for a Northwestern team that has only gone to one NCAA tournament, Joe, in their history?
Yep, one.
Yeah. You get a chance to win here. And if they do take care of business against that reeling Ohio State team as well, potentially leave this weekend as an 18-7 ball club, it's going to put them in a very good position for the tournament. Kind of looking at their resume and their metrics, comparing them to a team like Clemson, they're not a team with great metrics. They sit at number 52 overall in the net, but they're 4-4 in quad 1 and have no quad 3 or quad 4 losses. So if they are able to win this one against the number one team, obviously that's another huge quad 1 win. But then you look at a team like Clemson, 2 quad 4 losses and a quad 3. Northwestern, on the other hand, if they're like 500 there in that first quadrant and they have no bad losses, I don't see how, if it came down to like those two at the end of the day, how you could keep Northwestern out. I just think this is just one of those games where I know it's Super Bowl Sunday, but it's not really that big of a deal out there in Chicago at the moment. It's just one of those games where I think all the momentum and just the fanfare, the packed house, everything that goes involved into it, It's just going to help carry Northwestern and what's lining up to maybe be a historic season for this team. Obviously, containing Zach Edey is going to be the big thing, but the guard duo of Boo Buie and Chase Aldridge is better than the Purdue backcourt, I'm going to say. I think that guard play duo helps them beat Purdue in this one, a rock and home atmosphere as we lead into the Super Bowl. I think that's going to help propel Northwestern to one of the biggest wins in school history and move them closer to their second ever NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I mean, Northwestern has been one of my worst bet teams this year, easily. They have burnt me so many times. I bet for them, they've lost. I bet against them, they won. But again, I'm gonna keep going with it. I'm gonna go against them. I'm going Purdue 74, Northwestern 70. I do think they will cover. I like the over in this one, but at home, I'm kind of nervous about taking this. But I do think Edey he'll be dominant. You can't really stop a player at his size. Yeah, give me Purdue by 4. Just don't make me eat my words again, Northwestern, or else you're easily on the no bet list. No, whatever which way, you're done.
All right, well, now wrap it up for this week's college basketball show. Before we head out, I need your two guys' Super Bowl picks.
Beef. I won't lie. I was telling this to Ben earlier. I've been staring at the line for the past since the AFC and NFC championship games ended. Genuinely don't know who I'm going to bet, but I'll give a prediction. Mahomes as an underdog scares me. I think the Chiefs are going to win 34-31. I'm sorry to do it to all the. I know as we're on Pick Swap Media. I'm sorry. I might flip my pick by Sunday. We'll see. But as of right now, I'm leaning towards the Chiefs.
Give me the Birds. Give me the Birds to the dirt. I got them.
Brown or Marquez Valdez-Scantling first touchdown, though. Those are my two picks.
Okay. I like it. Yeah, give me the Birds. I got them. Give me 30-24 Birds. I think our defense is just going to get to Mahomes. I think we're going to dominate the trenches, like with our beef up front, obviously. But yeah, I think in all aspects besides quarterback, Eagles can win.
All right. Well, fellas, that'll do it. Thank you for coming on. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Please like, subscribe, and depending on what happens with the Super Bowl, we might not even have a show next week due to a parade. So we'll kind of see what happens. That's still up in the air, but most likely we will find a way to still touch base next week. But thank you everyone for listening, and we will talk soon.